keep it interesting. That's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 182.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Now podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Art of Bombing. Dan Bublitz Jr. here with you on Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020. Oh my God, 2020 is almost over. Christmas is only a few days away. We've got a fantastic guest today. Had a great conversation with Maggi Mayfield. We talked about voice acting because she's a voice actor, and she teaches voice acting. So if you're interested about learning about voice acting, you should go to her website, which is in the show notes. Check that out. She does some online classes. She also has written a book that's available on her website about voice acting, so check that out. She's also a musical comic, and we talked a little bit about that. And in her clip, before we have the conversation, we've got a special treat for you because she released a new song last year, actually. She released an original song called The Naughty Christmas Song, and I'm excited to share that with you guys before we get into the conversation with Maggi. But before we get to all that, let's handle the business. Let's see. We've got a couple of contests going on. If you share the Art of Bombing Facebook page and then comment on the post about this contest, you can be entered into a drawing to win a mask, an Art of Bombing mask, and some stickers. If you go to artofbombingpod.com/bestof and fill out the best of form, vote for your favorite episodes, you'll get registered for a chance to win a free t-shirt. So we got a lot of contests going on. Free stuff. Who doesn't want free stuff, right? I mean, everybody should want free stuff. The final thing I'm going to do for business is I have a New Year's Eve comedy show that's coming up on, obviously, December 31st. It's a great lineup of comics from across the country, some real heavy hitters. We have the recent winner of the San Diego Comedy Festival. Aaron Tracy is on the show. And we've got some people that have been on this podcast. Jesse Egan is going to be on the show, and then we got a few others. So check that out. You can get tickets for that. They're only $10. It's on my website, danbublitz.com. That is a virtual show. The Holly Jolly Jamboree went so well, I decided to do a New Year's Eve show, keeping that virtual comedy alive while we can't perform live for the time being. So if you want to go to that, go get tickets. My website, danbublitz.com. Go to the ticket link. You'll find it there. All right. Now, before we get into this conversation, last thing, rate the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, review the podcast. You know the things. All right. That's it. Here's my conversation with Maggi. Enjoy.
And now, it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
Not going home for Christmas this year. Won't fight the crowds at LAX. The planes don't go, 'cause there's too much damn snow. I mean, really, Chicago O'Hare, you have to mess it up for everyone every year. So I'll stay home and have incredible sex. We'll do it to the soundtrack of Little Drummer Boy. He'll go ba-rum-pa-bum-bum-bum. Babe, please go down. Santa Claus is coming to town. Well, it might be a white Christmas after all. Let's rock around your Christmas tree tonight. Won't let those jingle bells turn blue. The best sleigh ride you didn't have to buy. On my knees, let it snow, let it snow. So when your mom's like, we planned this back in September, but you smoke so much weed you can't remember. Worried it's a silent night, but everything will be alright. When you send this in a very naughty text, your little Saint Nick in my mistletoe quick.
That's so funny.
And pretend this is our last Christmas. Merry Christmas.
I was like, are there even words? We're having trouble with that one.
No, there are no words. We're not allowed to talk.
It's just pantomiming the whole time.
Yeah. We're just going to sit here and stare at each other in these little screens.
It's going to be a long show.
Yeah, right? Especially considering this is an audio podcast. I only used the video as a backup, so I don't very rarely do I release the video, but people will be like, what am I listening to? Is this thing on? They have to like check their phone to make sure their podcast application is actually working.
Right. Volume up. Volume up. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Did I pause it? What's going on here?
It's just super quiet. And then all of a sudden you're like, "Meh," like you gotta do like the blowhorn or something.
Like every 5 minutes, just a little horn to wake everybody up. That would actually be kind of a funny prank.
Well, that would actually be a great snooze alarm, I think.
Yeah, right? Just like turn on a podcast of nothing. Except every 5 minutes, just an air horn. I think after like one time of the air horn, maybe two, I'd have to get up. I'd be so annoyed.
Exactly.
The old air horn can be pretty annoying.
Well, what like a shitty way to start your day too. Like in the middle of the day, the air horn's hilarious, like bah, 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 you know. But in the morning, you're just like, I haven't even had coffee yet.
If you're sleeping.
It's not so funny at 8 a.m. No.
No, it's not. If that's what wakes you from a dead sleep, definitely not funny. That's a good way. That's a good way to get punched in the face. Blowing an air horn in somebody's face when they're sleeping.
Well, good thing it's only audio and not like real life.
Yeah, exactly.
Although the way technology is going, like we'll be able to punch through phones, which I kind of hope with like internet trolls. There's sometimes where I'm just like, I just want to spit on you, but I don't know how to make that happen because there's a screen. You're lucky.
We'll have like phones have like 4D technology, so like instead of doing a 3D picture, you'll be able to do a 4D picture, and it's just like you're spitting at the camera, and then it comes through and like spits on the person. That'd be pretty amazing. Yeah. We better get a patent on this shit because I think we're on to something.
Exactly.
Oh man, how long have you been in Austin now?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Oh, so very, very recent move. Okay,
I just got here. Yeah.
Have you had a chance? Because you said things are still open there with comedy. Have you had a chance to get up anywhere in Austin?
No, because Thanksgiving, family obligations. But I'm going tonight. There's a brand new mic like a mile away from where my sister lives in the suburbs. So I'm gonna go check it out. Bring my little guitar and see what happens. Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah.
And before you were in LA, but everything was pretty much shut down. Did you do any outdoor shows when you were in LA before you left, or?
I did, actually. I just did the backyard comedy battle, the backyard rap battle, which was amazing. And they had like a bigger audience than I've ever seen. There must have been like, I know this sounds crazy, but like there must have been 30 people in that backyard. It was huge.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they made you do a set and then you had to like rap battle against someone else. And it was terrible. Terrible.
I was going to say, it sounds fun, but fun to watch, not do. I would be terrible at a rap battle. Like I could do a set, but I don't know. So the rap battle part, I'm not winning.
Yeah. They had a DJ that was also up on stage. So like, I don't know if you've ever done those shows where like you're doing a set, but there's someone behind you the whole time.
Oh yeah, I've done plenty of those.
Right. Or like, What do I do? Do I talk to you too? Like, oh.
That's funny you say that, because I've been watching old comedy videos just because I've been scrubbing through my videos looking for stuff that I can make little clips for like TikTok and Instagram Reels. And I just watched a video from a contest that I did in San Diego from like 8 or 9 years ago. But in the background, I'm up there doing my jokes, and there's a DJ walking back and forth to the stage.
This is not conducive to good comedy.
Exactly. I'm like, well, definitely not pulling anything from this video.
Right. That's hilarious. I know. I love when like you get into an Uber or whatever, and they're like, "What are you doing? Going to a comedy show? Oh, tell me a joke." And you're like, "This isn't exactly an environment where I'm going to be funny, sir. It's like people get this conception where they're like, oh, we have to, you're just a funny person, right? Like you just be funny on cue. It's like, well, I mean, there should be lots of people laughing, hopefully together in a room, which God bless Dave Chappelle and being able to like socially distance, like watching his videos where everyone's like sitting so far apart. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like laughter is contagious for sure.
It's definitely interesting. I've done some shows that were socially distanced, and it's different. I mean, it's still better. It's been better than performing online, but at the same time, yeah, like not having the crowds right at front of the stage and like packed together it's a little weird.
Yeah,
and you're right, because laughter is contagious. So like. You have all that extra
like
space
6 feet away. Yeah, it's like, oh, it just takes longer to get that laugh track to your neighbor.
Yep. Yeah, it really does.
Weird. It is weird. It is a weird time to be a comedian. And you're right. It's like, I can't tell you, just being on TikTok, how many people are scrubbing through old videos and like, what I can't figure out is like how they're getting the text to come across, So
well, they're putting it in themselves. I mean, that
sounds like
it's a lot of work. I started doing that where I was putting in text myself, and then I was like, no, I'm done with this. This is too much. Mm-hmm. And so I've been releasing videos without subtitles, which may be good or bad. I don't know. But either way, it's like, because I don't want, like, I'm looking for stuff, but my comedy is hard to, it's hard to break down. Like, because with Instagram Reels, you only get 30 seconds. Right? With TikTok, you get up to a minute, which you can do quite a bit in a minute, but 30 seconds is pretty tough if you're not a one-line comic. And I'm not a one-liner comic, I do more story type stuff and longer setups and things like that. So it's like trying to find clips that are under 30 seconds. Oh, it's been intense.
Yeah. And it's hard too to like be hard on yourself and like, what words can I cut out? Like where, do I need this to tell the story? Like it's hard to do that for
absolutely.
yourself.
That's one of the things that's been beneficial, because I was just thinking about this last night as I was editing videos, that alone has been beneficial in the sense that because I'm trying to create a bunch of this content to put on these platforms and I have to cut it down to 30 seconds. It's helping me figure out where to cut stuff, and not that I would cut it in a regular set, but it's helping me edit things down, so where it's like I had a video and I had to get it under 30 seconds. Well, it was kind of tough because I felt like the first part of the joke was really important, and there wasn't anything to take off the back end. There was a little bit in the middle, but you can't take that out, which it was laughter is what it was in the middle. It was like,
you want that.
Yeah, it was like an applause break or a laugh break. And so I didn't want to cut that out, but then I started, re-listen to it. And then I was like, you know what? I can actually cut this whole first part off. And if I start from here, it's still enough of a setup to make the punch pay off. So it's like helping me develop these skills to like really fine tune some of my stuff.
That's great.
Which is good. So that's one thing that I find, like with this pandemic, that's been nice, is that granted we can't do as much comedy, it's forcing us to learn other things and get better at other things, which is always good.
Yeah, no, that's super great. I love that.
Have you been doing a lot of voice acting then in the
Yeah. when they say, experts say that when you really focus in on something, it really starts to blossom and like take off for you. And like before the pandemic, it was comedy and voice acting and regular acting and radio and like just so many things on my plate at the same time. And now that the pandemic was like, nothing's happening. That's pretty much all I had. And now we're coming to the end of the year and I'm billing more, almost 3 times as more now than I was in March, which is great.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's like when you really channel your focus and you really zone in on something, it works. Who thought? Who would have thought?
Right? Craziness. If you focus, you can find some success. What? Get out of here.
Yeah. So
what is this madness?
Yeah. I wound up picking up 2 voiceover agents, which is amazing. I didn't think that would be possible. And
how does that work? Like, how can you have 2 voiceover agents? Like, I mean, because I feel like, wouldn't they be like competing with each other? Like, how does that work?
You would think they aren't. There are 2 different regions. One's in California. The other is in Maryland. So sometimes there are just like East Coast projects and sometimes there are just West Coast projects. And I've only seen maybe 1 or 2 where they send me both the same thing. And then I just send them the same audition. But I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I'm still like kind of new at this, but no one's yelling at me and no one's mad yet. So it's like,
well, hey,
what I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. No, I guess that makes sense. I didn't think about that, having with voice acting where it would be broke down like that. Because it seems like with regular acting, it's not really broke down like East Coast, West Coast. I mean, there's projects in East and West, but most, if you have an agent, you have an agent and they get you projects all over for acting. It's what it seems like. Granted, I don't know. I'm not that deep into that side of the industry, so I could be totally blowing smoke out of my ass here too.
Yeah. It's actually like Atlanta and New Orleans are huge hotspots for acting. So a lot of projects that you're seeing on like Netflix, especially, they're coming out of those regions. And so they're looking for local actors. So when you watch Netflix and you're like, I like the story, the acting was a little like, that's why. It's like they're not pulling talent from Los Angeles because they're saving their cash and hiring locals. So these like, not their lead characters, but like the second and third tiered talent are local hires. So if you want to be an actor, that is a place to go.
I thought, I ended up in Minnesota, but I was looking at Atlanta was one of, and I mean, it's still not necessarily out of the question. It may still end up there, but I did seriously consider moving to Atlanta just because of that, because it is a lot of video projects and stuff are being filmed out there in that area. So
I'd say get your headshot. Yeah. Get your headshot and your demo together and go. Like, don't wait. If it's on your brain, like, go.
Exactly. It's not on my, like, acting's not like my priority.
Yeah.
It's one of them things where it's like, when I move places, it's more comedy. Like I'm going, is this convenient for comedy? Then I can have all these other things too. That's cool. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of voice acting is like my studio is literally right behind me. So I can take it anywhere. Like I can do this anywhere, which is cool.
Yo, absolutely. That is. And what kind of projects have you been doing? Anything you can like talk about or like what? I guess I don't know what kind of stuff because there's different types of voice acting. There's like commercial where you're doing like voiceovers for commercials on radio and things like that. Yeah. Obviously, animated series, different things or whatever, but. Yeah.
I am working to get to the animation stage, but that is an upper tier and you have to be like a union member to do that. But a lot of my work is like commercials, like you said, like radio commercials. It's a lot of e-learning courses. So like North Carolina Community College, I do a lot of work for them. Behind the scenes for Dell, behind the scenes for a lot of these medical companies like Quest Diagnostics, who's been really busy through the pandemic for obvious reasons.
What?
Yeah.
Is there something going on? Are we breaking news? What's going on?
But actually, like my big moneymaker is I do audiobooks, and I feel like I'm kind of cornering the market in romance novels. So
finding your niche, huh?
I think if you had told me a year ago that I would be doing that, I would have been like, that's crazy, but it's really fun. It's really
that's interesting.
Fun. Yeah.
How many hours do you end up spending a day working then?
I can only really talk, like I can only really read out loud for 4 hours a day. That's like my max. And then I get
That's still
tired.
A lot for talking in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'll spend a couple hours like editing because you have to edit your stuff. So yeah. So that's about it. That's a day.
With that editing your own stuff, is it just cutting out stuff like the uhs and ahs and the breaths, or do you actually have to add effects and stuff too? Like
no effects.
Like
most clients want it.
So you don't have to do like the sound engineering type stuff. Okay.
No.
I was like, damn,
but it does take a while. Like you don't just like read a book and get through it without making mistakes. Like that definitely happens. So
for sure.
My little trick is like, if I make a mistake, I'll just go, and then it leaves a nice big spike in the audio. So I know like, just go back there. And yeah, that's
smart.
Yeah.
See, I don't think I could do that in this, just because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and if I fuck up, I'm like, I gotta start over. Just if anybody that listens to my podcast, the intro, you have no idea how many times I start over, because I like it to go all in a row. I don't like cutting it up, like the chunks of the intro. So like if I'm going, I might be going for like 2 minutes, and then I screw something up. I'm like, fuck. And then I hit stop, delete it, and start over.
I would love to hear that, actually.
I should save some of them, just because some of the bloopers would be funny, because I get so irritated. Or like, one thing that I've noticed that happens to me is my voice gets like mucusy, like I got a cough, like hack or whatever, when I'm talking for a while, or it always seems to do it like when I'm recording. You know, like I can just be sitting around having a conversation and it's just fine. But then when it's time to actually record and do work, my voice is like, ends up getting all weird, and I'll be talking just fine, and then all of a sudden I have to like stop and I'm like, damn it, and then delete.
Yeah. Yep.
So annoying.
Yep. That is a weird like phenomenon, because it's the same thing for me. Like we're talking now, it's fine, but I'm going to go into my studio and we're done, and I'll be like, like there's an animal in there. Like, what happened?
Well, it's good to know that I'm not the only one that does
You're
that.
Not. You're not.
So the universe doesn't just dislike me. It's more than me. Okay, good.
You're not alone in your universe hatred of selves. What?
That's funny. So with the voice acting, then, did you get into that because you had a strong background in radio? You did radio for many years, right? Is that what kind of led you into doing voice acting?
Yeah, it is. It is. I'll never forget it. My very first job, I was making nothing. I mean, it was like, I was making nothing. Like it was either buy gas to get to work or like eat. That's how little it was making. And you do it because it's fun. But I wound up getting a job working for the Sunset Galleria in Las Vegas, and they would pay me $100 to do a commercial. And that $100, I'm telling you, every 2 weeks, like that was a lot of money for me. In my early 20s, it was like, I can eat now. And then it just kind of from there started a little avalanche. Like, oh, if you want to make good money on the side, like that's the way you do it. It's like you're already in this amazing studio equipment. You already have the resources that you need. And so I just started doing that, after hours, after work. And I was like, no one's in the studio. Like, I'm just going to use it to do my thing. So I was double dipping for quite a while. And then I just gained so many clients. I was like, well, I don't need to do all these jobs. I can do it myself. And so it was actually last year in 2019, I quit and started working for myself.
And then 2020 hit and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. It was partly like, I'm so lucky and grateful. And also like, oh my God, can I do this? Can I do this?
Well, it's amazing when people are put in like stressful situations like this, where it's like a make or break. And a lot of times people make it. Like, it's amazing. Like having that pressure really puts focus, you know. I mean, like even you were talking about how at the beginning of the year you weren't doing as much voice acting because you had all these other things, and then you crunched down, and now you're doing 3 times of what you were doing at the beginning of the year, which is amazing. You know,
Thank you.
You go from March to December, you know, that's only like 9 months to turn around like that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Good on you.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
There's a lot of people that probably would have been like, I'm done.
Right.
Throwing the towel.
Yeah. I mean, what else
That's
is the
for
internet
sure.
good for? Making money. It was either that or an OnlyFans account. And I was like, one's going to last a lot more. Yeah.
That seems to be the go-to now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy how many people seem to have an OnlyFans now. Like everywhere I go, like social media wise, it's like somebody's advertising on OnlyFans, and people I would never expect. Like all of a sudden, you got a comic that doing good at comedy, and then suddenly now they're on OnlyFans, and I'm like, what the hell?
That's what I thought when I saw your account on there. I was like, whoa, Dan, that's crazy. Who knew?
Hey, I got to make money somehow.
I know.
I'm you know, actually, it's funny because there are some male comedians that have done that, and I don't know what kind of content they're putting on there, you know, but I've heard that they've been, you know, setting those OnlyFans accounts up because it's kind of like the Patreon, but I think they get a better percentage from OnlyFans.
That's cool. Yeah.
I'm not sure how it all works, but I just know that there's quite a few comedians that have been using OnlyFans. What they're using it for, you can probably guess.
You know what? And good for them. You know, like that's
exactly.
I mean,
that's how I feel. It's like,
it's
hey,
innovative, and you know, use what you got for sure.
Yeah, exactly. If you're making money, more power to you.
Exactly.
Do you?
Exactly.
We all gotta survive. That's for sure.
We're doing the best we can.
Exactly. The best we can with what we got.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you said that you kind of went full-time self-employment in 2019, and 2020 was going to be my year. At the beginning of the year, I had a lot of stuff booked up, and I was like, you know what? By the end of 2020, I should be able to do comedy full-time. I should have everything set up, you know. But by the end of the year, I should have a dry bar comedy special coming out. You know, I got all this work lined up, and then 2020, you know, the pandemic hit, all that went away. I mean, I still managed to get to film the dry bar comedy special, but way later in the year. So it's not going to be out till like way next year. But I was like, yes, this is going to be my year. And then March hit, and then April, all my stuff went away. May, all my stuff went away. April, all my stuff went. And I was like, nope, this is not the year.
You know what, though, was great about you is like, you're still working. Like, I haven't gone through old video and like cut out that stuff. Like, I understand the process. I just haven't done it. You know what I mean? So like, you're still hyper focused on it, and you're still getting better, even though like you're not in front of a live audience. Like, you're still working the craft. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's super admirable.
Yeah. For me, I was like, with everything that's going on, I looked at it as you can either not do anything, or you can find another way to reach people. It's like forcing my hand. It's kind of the same situation with you and the voice acting, where you're like, I gotta either starve, or I need to focus on this and do this, and you were able to do that. And to me, it's kind of the same, because I was like, all right, well, I can't really go do live comedy, so you can do the virtual stuff, which it's fine or whatever, but this is like forced me to like, okay, now I need to really put content out there, because I need to try to reach an audience. So hopefully when stand-up comes back, I'll have a little bit of a following that maybe will come to a live show, or retweet about a live show or whatever. So I was like, all right, I'm going to focus now on building a presence online.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it on the head too. It's like those retweets and those likes are so invaluable. They're so important to us, and not for like self-esteem, but just to help get the word out. You know what I mean? Like a butt in the chair. It's like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's such a big deal.
And I'm actually studying marketing too, so that's the other thing. So I kind of it's a nerdy thing for me to watch different videos do well and other videos not do well, and try to figure out what the difference was and things like that. So that's another cool aspect with what I'm doing. It's given me more time to focus on that. So
yeah, because you were just talking about doing like a session on EPK, the press kit. Yeah, that's so cool. Yep. I hope that goes well for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna put something together. I'm developing it. I'm sure it'll be fine. It was just because I wasn't thinking about doing that until after I went to the World Series of Comedy, and one of the festival producers mentioned to me how they really liked my EPK. They said it was one of the best they've ever saw. Wow. Well, when they said it, there was other comics there, and then they started asking about. There's like, what's the EPK? What is he talking about? What's this? Like they had all these questions of. They're like, what's in it? And I started showing them, what I had or whatever, and then somebody that was there was like, you need to teach a seminar on EPKs and then bring it back to this festival. And I was like, you're right, actually, I should.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great. Yeah. I hope it goes well. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Either way, it'll be it's another project to keep me busy.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe make you a little cash on the side. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. It amazes me how so many comics don't understand like the marketing side of things or the business side of comedy. And even a little thing like with an EPK, like I posted in a couple different groups or whatever and got some feedback, and some people were like, I don't see the point of an EPK and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, I'm not going to sit there and argue with these people, but all I can think is, well, you're probably not using it effectively, because it's not about, just because the word press is in the title, it isn't for just the press. Right. You're making it convenient for the bookers and the promoters to have everything they need to market you on their show without having to go back and forth. And it saves time for you, because like once you have it together, instead of like, I got to go here and get a headshot, I got to go here and get my bio and this and that or whatever and compile this email. Here it is, all in one shot. Yeah,
that's great. Well, I think it's invaluable, really.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a lot that comedians need to learn to be successful. I mean, it's one of
we forget that it's a business.
We do.
Yeah,
absolutely. We get too caught up on wanting to write jokes and tell jokes and be in front of the audiences that we forget about that side of things. That you look at some of the most successful comedians, they're not necessarily successful because they were the funniest comic in the room. They're often the most successful because they did a good job at marketing themselves, and they were good. They had good business sense, So hopefully it helps some people. But enough about me and my shenanigans. We got to talk about the art of bombing, and I would love to hear your story. And then if you have one with voice acting, that would be kind of funny too, to hear something if that's the thing that's happened, like an audition or something.
I have one for you, but which one do you want first? You want the voiceover or you want the stand-up?
Your choice.
The voiceover thing, and I'll never forget this, because it's a rule now for me that this is why I asked you. I don't cuss in the studio. So when I get behind the mic, stop it. Very, very early on, I was working on a project. It was so long, and I did not have super great equipment to work on it was 90 minutes of finished audio. So just to put that in perspective for you, when you do 90 minutes, it takes about 3 times as long to work on something like that, to read it, record it, edit it, upload it, all that stuff. So 90 minutes is really 4.5 hours of work. Like, it's a lot of work. And I didn't have the equipment. So as I'm going through this, I just can't, God damn it, shit, and like having to edit that out, but I wasn't yet. And so I wound up actually sending audio that had, damn it, here we go, those again. And so the client came back and was like, I don't think this is what you meant to send. And as I went through it again, I was like, oh, that's embarrassing. So embarrassing.
Definitely not what I meant to send.
Yeah. So I won't ever learn my lesson the hard way on that one. So that is my bomb for the voiceover. And then for stand-up, it was my debut at the Irvine Improv in Southern California. And an old radio friend of mine was putting on a fundraiser for cancer research, some sort of cancer research. And I got to feature, which was awesome. And I had literally just found out like 2 days before that my dad was diagnosed with late onset MS. And I was a mess about it. And I got up there and I started talking about like, oh, cancer, it's not a big deal. I'm like MS. And like, I was just angry as hell. And everyone's looking at me like, what do we do? This is really
Oh no.
It was mortifying. But I was like, I'm just going to finish my 15 minutes. I'm going to get off stage. And I sat there and like my mom was in the audience. Like my uncle came, like my family was there. I was like, this is awful. Like, what do you do? And so at the end of the show, I still stood out there. I stood out and like waited to like shake people's hands. And most people walked by and they were like, saving grace. A couple of like teenage girls that walked by, they were like, you were so funny. I was like, then why didn't you laugh? Why didn't you laugh? So that was I'll never forget it. The worst. It was embarrassing, mortifying, really.
Yeah. It's amazing how like personal issues can trickle into our performances, especially like that. We're like, and if you have, you find out bad news or whatever, it can really affect how you perform and what you perform. I mean, there's been plenty of meltdowns on stage from different comics. I mean, that happens a lot where, comics have a bad day and then suddenly, especially at an open mic. Oh my God. I've seen a lot of meltdowns at open mics, and it's just like, whoo, I think you need to not be up here. This is not the time for you to be up here,
Yeah.
Because I've had that where, or people have like a bad situation and they want to, like somebody dies or whatever, and they're like, I gotta go perform, and I'm just like, no, you don't. This is take the time and just deal with your stuff before you go on stage, because trust me, you're not. It's not going to be good. You're going to go up there, have this massive meltdown, and it's going to be very awkward for everybody.
Yeah, I think that was like one thing I learned in radio was like, it's never the audience's fault. So it's like, no matter how mad you are, like it's not their fault you're having a bad day, and they don't need to be a part of it. Like no one asked. No one wants that.
Exactly.
They just want to have a good time.
They came to laugh. Yeah, they came to come have a good time and laugh, not to be brought down by whatever's affecting the comic.
My dad's sickness. Yeah. Thanks for spending money on cancer research, but let me tell you, I have it worse. Like, oh.
Yeah, let me tell you, cancer's not that bad. Have you heard of MS?
Right.
Maybe we should be donating to that charity, huh?
Yeah, it was awkward. It was super awkward, but live and learn. Yeah.
It's funny that sometimes though comics can have them meltdowns and they're actually really funny, or like they get real personal. It's really funny. That actually happened to me after a really bad breakup. I got very raw with it, and it ended up being a lot funnier than anything. And it was very therapeutic in a way, and I didn't. After a couple of those sets, I didn't do that material anymore because it was, a little bitter, but whatever. It was still funny.
Yeah, that's the point.
Got some good laughs.
There you go. Yeah, that's the point of comedy, Dan. I'm trying to be funny.
Is it to make it? Is it? Is that what it is? Because I think there's some comics that could use some lessons.
Ooh. Someone told me a long time ago, they're like, if you're going to get up on stage, if you can't be funny, be interesting. And that always stuck with me. Like, because there are going to be nights where you're like, these jokes just aren't landing. So just be interesting.
Well, yeah, that definitely happens. And that's a good perspective on that. But I feel like if, as a comic, we should at least be trying to be funny. But you're right. Yeah. On those nights when the crowd's just not with you, at least be interesting. Give them something to remember. That's for sure. Like talking about your dad, right? I mean, it definitely probably piqued their interest. They were probably like, what's going on?
Yeah, no one left that room forgetting me, that's for sure.
You're like, and I knew this as they were walking away, looking away.
Yep.
I always think that's like the because I'm like you in the sense that if I have a bad set, I will still go stand out there and I will take my licks of people walking by and trying not to make eye contact with me. Like I'm like, I deserve this.
But I also think it's important to like be out there and be like, thank you for your time and your energy. You know what I mean? Like you sat through
absolutely.
that. Yeah. I mean, it's better when like you're hilarious and they want to talk to you. But like, I think it's important too to recognize like you spend a lot of time with me, and I appreciate that, no matter how it went.
No, so. That's a good perspective on that. I know there has been a couple times when I did so bad where I was like, you know what, I'm not going out there. I'm just gonna go hang out in the green room until this crowd is gone.
Yep. I get that too.
Not having it tonight.
Yep.
But I try to do that though. So the bumming of bombing, the dreadful feeling you get after you have a bad set or a bomb. How long does that typically last for you, and how does it affect you, and how has it changed over the last while you've been doing comedy?
Wait, that was a lot of questions. So how long does it affect me?
So it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. So I guess how long does it affect you, and how has that changed over the years?
It used to affect me really hard. Like even at an open mic, like if I did bad at an open mic, which is dumb, like you're supposed to do bad there. It would affect me for a while. It would be a good day and a half where I'd be like, ugh. But now it's like, yeah, like you're supposed to be bad there. Like go up and if you can't be funny, be interesting. And then figure out how to make it funnier, So now it's just like, I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I got shit to do. So. Although, like the online thing, like it is really hard. It's so different. Like,
have you did online shows? Have you did some online shows? Yeah,
I do. I run an open mic every Wednesday online, which is it's called the challenge mic, and it's all improv based. I think it's really the only show that is conducive to being online. So like, I'll just pick a topic for a comic, and then they'll start to riff and storytell, and everyone's really invited to participate. So it feels more like a conversation. But it's just a place to like get ideas for jokes, which in person is hilarious and a ton of fun. And there are prizes involved, and it's a bit more bigger energy, but it feels more like an intimate conversation online. Mm-hmm. But those online shows, like, I'm a guitar comic now. So there is,
oh, all right. Podcast. No.
there is like this need to have people like look at me and like participate. I'm like, are you feeling this? Do you know this song? Like, where are you? And everything is so laggy, it just takes longer.
It's hard. Yeah. And definitely another thing with that too, you have the lag obviously, but sometimes people don't have their mics on or they don't have their cameras on. So it's really hard to tell if people are actually engaged with what's going on or not, Mm-hmm. I definitely have had issues with performing online just in the sense that forgetting that lag. Like I'll do a joke and it doesn't land and I'm like, oh, well, that didn't work. And I'm one of these people that if a joke doesn't land, I try to hurry to the next thing to keep moving. And what I've been learning is that you got to wait and let that sit because of that lag, because you go to start that next joke and then all of a sudden people are laughing. You're like, oh, damn it, lag.
Yeah. Yeah. And like your feelings don't lag. You know what I mean? Like it hits you instantly. That feeling
absolutely.
Of like, ooh, it sucks. Like it's like a punch in the gut is what it feels like when people aren't laughing. So for me, it helps to have like everyone in gallery view, and I'm like, can I see people with their heads back? Like that. I mean, that does help. And then reminding yourself, like, you have to give yourself an extra 3 to 5 seconds. Like it has to be longer. It's hard. It's really hard.
Oh, it absolutely is. It is that, and I do the same thing. I usually put everybody in gallery mode just because I've actually, I when I was working on this before the pandemic, I just finally decided to use it. When I perform now, I actually set up my basement to do comedy shows. Like I built a stage and I got background and I put chairs and seating in there or whatever. Well, I was already working on it at the beginning, before the pandemic, and then that hit, and I thought, well, now I have more time, so I finished it, and then it's just been sitting down there, and I did like a corporate gig online, a virtual corporate gig, and I was like, this just isn't going to work. Like, I mean, it's not quite the same. Like, I just can't give them the same energy I could give them live. And I was like, what can I do differently? And I was like, you dummy, you have a whole freaking stage downstairs. Use it. And so now when I do like virtual performances, I set up everything downstairs and I stream from down there. And when I perform on my stage with the PA, and I have my mic set up for my computer or whatever. So I have it all set up so that I can perform with a real performance stage like area. So it feels cool. Even though I'm doing it online and virtually and you don't always get to hear those laughs, it still feels like I'm on stage and I still perform better. At least amazing. I feel like I do.
No, I think that's amazing. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, which it's worked out pretty good. I've only used it a couple times because I haven't really been doing a lot of virtual stuff, but I'm going to, now that things have been kind of closing back up, I'm going to try to do some more virtual stuff. But now I'm like one of these people, like, even though I try to work as much as I can, I'm also kind of lazy. And I'm like, oh, God, if I do a show, that means I got to bring all my equipment downstairs. Oh, I got to bring my laptop and my mic downstairs. Oh, my God, that's too much work. I'm not going to do a mic tonight.
I get it. I do. I get it. If I only have like 2 or 3 people sign up for the mic, I'm like, it's canceled. It's not worth it. I'm not doing it tonight.
Yeah. Have you been getting a good response with that? Like people signing up? Because it seems like there's a lot of people eager to do virtual comedy. There's a whole Facebook group dedicated to it and lots of people doing it. I was surprised too, because there's people that just started comedy virtually. They've never performed live.
What? I can't even.
That was my reaction.
Yeah, like yeah, it is pretty wild. I may need to like lessen the frequency of it so that the demand is more, but for now it's fine. It's fun. It's fun. It really is fun.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's good. And that, like I said, that's the other thing that's nice about that is and I feel like maybe that's why if you don't get a lot of people signing up, it's probably because they're intimidating, because you can't just go in there with your own material. Like that's one thing I've noticed about comics is we get real hung up on not being vulnerable and trying to do new things, like shows like that. Shows that would obviously help improve your writing. I mean, I even though I'm not an improv performer, but I've taken some classes, and I always encourage people is like, you don't have to do improv, but take improv classes because it'll still help a lot. It does.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But
an improvised stand-up is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
I couldn't imagine. Like, I think about that too. I mean, I've done some stuff, but I'm not a good improviser. I will admit it. Like, I've not, like, I've taken classes and I won't perform because, an improv team is only as strong as their weakest link. And I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. If I'm going to bomb, I'm going to be on my own. I'm not going to cause a whole bunch of other people to bomb too.
Right. And I don't know how much, it says like you don't do a lot of improv, but it's like improv is so much more fun to perform than it is to watch. You know what I mean? Whereas like stand up, it can be equally as fun to watch and to perform.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like going to watch a team.
I've watched some really good improv and had a good time watching it.
God bless you.
I mean, but I'm also on the same side, but it's the same with stand up. I've seen some very awful improv and I was like, oh, because I feel like with improv, there's no in between. It's either really good or it's really bad. Like There's no mediocre. We're stand up. You got really good, you got really bad, but then there can be just, mediocre, which would be, somebody that has some good stuff mixed in with some stuff that is you can take it or leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. The art of comedy.
Right? So when you have a bad set, what do you do to analyze your sets to try to figure out what happened and what you can do in the future?
I'll listen to it again. I don't tape my stuff as much as I would like to. But I'll do it again. I'll do the same thing again to make sure it wasn't just an audience thing, like me trying to connect with the audience. Sometimes that happens. We don't blame the audience, but it's like, is it a me thing or was it a them thing? I don't know. So we do it again. And if it was the same thing twice in a row, then it's like, okay, it's time to fix that up. Time to reword this. Maybe it isn't funny. Maybe my dad's sickness isn't quite all over yet.
Maybe it's too soon to be joking about that.
Right.
Or trying to joke about that.
Exactly.
Do you do, now that you're doing more voice work and stuff and you're having to edit with that, has that, and granted, there's not a lot of comedy going on, but do you find yourself editing more your jokes, like really trying to use word economy and things like that now?
Yes, because virtual shows, you only get so many minutes on stage, and I want to be respectful, and people's attention spans is so much shorter, especially online, because you're in your living room and everything in your living room is awesome. So I don't like having to compete with that is tough. And so, yeah, of course you think about it. It's like, you want to do the best stuff, the best of the best. And, yeah. And because there is that lag time, it's like you do get fewer and fewer words. If that makes sense.
You do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You only have so much time, so you got to make the most of it. That's for sure. But you said now you're doing more guitar comedy. Do you, with that, like, there's different kinds of guitar comics in the sense where you have some that do, like parody or they'll do like short little riffs kind of mixed with jokes or whatever. And then there's ones that do full on comedy songs. Where do you fall in that? Are you doing more songs? Are you doing more like short songs or? Yes. Like if you were only doing yes, you're like, I'm all of it. Everything.
I am.
But, so that's fine.
Yeah, no, I do all of it. I released an album this year called Pandemic Girl, which is all parody songs. Like it's just parody songs. I wrote an original comedy song. It's a Christmas song. But when I'm on stage, like I don't sing full songs. It's like partial songs so that it punctuates the jokes that I do. So on stage, it's very like 50-50, where I'll talk and then I'll sing a little bit and then I'll talk some more and sing a little bit more. If that helps answer your question. So yes, I do.
Oh no, I totally get that. Yeah. Well, I mean, cause that's one thing I've seen guitar comics struggle with is time, especially like short sets. It's harder for a guitar comic to go up and do a 5-minute set if they do full on songs, where their songs are 2 to 3 minutes, because then you're like, you might have 2 songs that are 3 minutes, but only a 5-minute set. How are you you can't get, and you don't want to just stop abruptly, at the end of one of them or whatever. So I could see where, that can be very difficult for short sets. If you're, featuring or headlining, things like that, you got all the time in the world. It's a lot different,
Yeah, it is a lot different. Yeah, I won't do like, and the album I did this year, I do cut it off short. I'm like, here's one verse of it and the chorus. You can hear the rest of it. It's on Spotify or whatever. Otherwise, like one of my favorite jokes is like, I'll talk about like being a caffeine addict. And then I'll punctuate it with a very quick line from an Alanis Morissette song, it's very quick. And I think people just like to be like, oh, I know that song. Like that's where the laugh is like, oh, I recognize it. I'm in on the joke. Like it's funnier because I don't think they're expecting it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's this the fact, how you said they're in on the joke. You're finding a way to connect with the audience, and or not connect, but relate. It's something that the audience can relate to. It's something they know. So
yeah, exactly.
I've always found that being able to relate with whatever it is really helps. It helps connect, really.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. How much, when you do write like an original song, like how long does that take for you to try to do? Like I know nothing about music. I'm not musically inclined, so I'm interested in how that process goes.
I saw an interview with Alicia Keys, and she said that when she started playing piano at like 4 or 5 years old, she started learning pop songs and then was taking those chords that she would learn and rearranging them or speeding them up or slowing them down or whatever she would do. But she would take other people's songs and kind of rearrange it to make it her own. So that's what I do. That's songwriting. That's really it. Parody writing is really simple. It's like I took American Girl from Tom Petty and turned it into Pandemic Girl. Like the parody songs is very simple. It's like if you're clever, anything can become a parody song. But to like write an original, so like I haven't played original songs for other people, like, except for the one comedy song that I wrote last year, which took me, I would say, a couple months to figure out the lyrics to. So like the chords were easy and like the melody in my head, but it was like, how do I get words to fit in that makes sense?
So in that process, you kind of had the melody and so you had basically the music before you had the lyrics.
Yeah. Yep. And I feel like, so like I write songs for myself also. Like I probably have maybe 10 or 12 that I just like fiddle around with on the guitar on my own. And
not
it's the
comedy,
same,
just like regular songs.
Just regular songs.
Okay.
It's therapy. It's another form of therapy for me. But again, it's all like melody first. And then I'm like, oh, well, what would I want to sing about? What does this make me think of? It's strange. And I know a lot of people do it the other way. They're like, oh, and they like scribble it down. I'm like, maybe I'm doing it backwards or wrong. I don't know. Who knows? But I don't think it's...
Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing about art is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like the process is however works for the artist is what works, So going from writing music and then lyrics works for you. Good for you. It's like at least you're creating. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
You're not, because so many people let other people's perspectives on how things should be done stop them from creating art. They'll be like, you got to do it this way. And then the person's like, well, I don't want to do it that way, so I'm just not going to do it. Which is really sad when we shut people down about that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to switch it up and do some fun stuff. I like to ask some fun questions. Do you have a pre-show ritual or tradition? Something you have to do before each show?
I have to tune my guitar.
Well, that was obvious.
It's not obvious. Let me tell you.
Oh, really?
It's not obvious. I didn't know. I haven't been doing it that long. So I took my guitar. I went to Washington, D.C. and did a set at the D.C. Comedy Club out there for a couple nights. And it didn't occur to me that when you fly with an instrument, that the pressure will change your instrument. So I tuned it before I went on stage, but I let it sit for a while. And when I got on stage, it didn't hold. It didn't hold the tune. So I got up there and I was like, this sounds terrible. And everyone in the front row was looking at me like, oh God, like what's happening? So the whole set was me just like fiddling with this guitar. It was like, it was one of the best sets I've ever had. Because everyone thought I did it on purpose, which was great. So I just played into it. And I had such a great time with that particular set. And then did it again the next night and everything was tuned. But again, the audience was like, this is nice. This is lovely. But it wasn't as like roaring of a show as the night before when I was fucking up terribly. So, but they all thought I did it on purpose. So, I think that was a win-win. So, Yeah, tune it and then tune it again.
Tune it and tune it again. I like it. What's one of your favorite gigs that you've done so far?
The challenge mic.
The challenge mic? That's your favorite?
Yeah.
Are you just being biased?
No. And here's why. It's because, like, you hit it right on the head earlier. Is like comics have a hard time being vulnerable. And I think that that's when we are our most real and hilarious. So like I teach a voiceover class, and there's a big component of comedy that we do have to talk about. And for people that don't do comedy, like, how do you explain what comedy is? It's like, oh, someone is being ridiculous. We think they're ridiculous, but they're serious. You know what I mean? Like, I'm serious in my ridiculousness, and that's what makes it funny. And like, when we get up there and you get asked a question, like, you know, I'm trying to think of some of the topics that we'll get, like, what does Earth smell like? Like, that's a weird thing to think about. But when you're like, oh, Earth is nothing but piss, you know, like, that's what it smells like. It smells like piss. And then you get really real and raw about, like, why the Earth is just a giant gaseous ball of, like, homelessness. I don't know. It's a terrible example. But when they get, like, introspective and real and raw, like, it is ridiculous, but it's so funny because it's so real. That makes sense. So I've heard a lot of shit on that stage. Like, I hold a lot of people's secrets.
I believe
but it is so fun. It is so fun. It's so fun.
That's awesome. I'll have to check it out sometime. I'll have to get out of my comfort zone and try to do some improv comedy stuff. You
know, and I tell people, like, it's your 5 minutes, like, do whatever you want with it. And some people go and they just do their own jokes. And live, like, I would hold a feature spot so you can get a little bit extra time. And the feature would do a lot of their own material, but then, like, people want to see you try something new. Like, they want to be in on it. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
It's really fun. And it's not as difficult. It's not really as difficult as you think. It's not like the prompts are all, what does Earth smell like?
Well, yeah. My thing is, it's like, I'm super hypercritical on myself to try to be the best that I can. And it's like letting myself not be the best. Cause like in that situation, the audience knows that what you're coming up with might not be great because you're just coming up with it. But in my head, I'm like, I need to be funny. If this material ain't gold, then I failed. You know what I mean? Like, but that's my own thing that I have to get over. So I do try to do stuff like that just to, you know, get out of my comfort zone. Cause I think it's good to get out of the comfort zone once in a while.
Yeah. I talk about, like, one of my favorite jokes that has come from there was, like, the prompt was your favorite toy as a kid. And for me, it was Barbie. And as I picked it apart a little bit, I was like, oh, I never had a Ken as a kid. And so we would, like, cut the hair off of the Ken dolls. And I was like, I knew what LGBT was long before that was even a thing. You know, like, how we were making Barbies make out with each other and it wasn't an issue. Like, why is it an issue now? Like, we don't care. We don't care.
No, that's good. That's a good observation on that too. Well, no, it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely a good thing for writing and getting out of that element. The final thing I like to do is a game called Pick a Number. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 20, and I'm going to ask you a corresponding question. It may be comedy related or it may not.
3.
3. All right. Ooh, this is a fun one. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Ooh, emotional, playful, honest.
Emotional, playful, and honest. There we have it. 3 words. I'll take it. it. Where can people find you online and keep up with you?
Yeah, all the socials you can find right through the website, MaggiMayfield.com. That's Maggie with the no E, Maggi, Mayfield.com.
Excellent. Well, thanks for doing this.
This was amazing. Dan, you are so wonderful, and I'm so glad to get to know you better, and thank you for having me on.
The Art of Bombing is a Blitzed Entertainment production, hosted and produced by me, Dan Bublitz Jr. The stand-up spotlight bumper was produced by Joe Nicola Music. The Art of Bombing theme music was written and performed by John Hult. All other music was used under Creative Commons licensing. All stand-up audio clips were used with permission from the comedians. You can help the podcast by subscribing, leaving a 5-star rating, and a review. For previous episodes, merch, blogs, and more, please visit theartofbombingpod.com. And remember, stay safe so you can live to love.